Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to talk about choosing equipment to take to the outdoors. I've had lots of questions about that subject, so I'm going to share with you today the 4 top things I consider when I'm going to be purchasing some new equipment or even choosing what equipment that I have that I'm going to take on a trip. Along with that, I'm going to show you how I build my cook kit. So let's get started. Have you noticed how many options there are out there now? When I first started backpacking and camping, there were very few options, so making a decision and a choice was not very complicated. But there's an awful lot of very good equipment out there, and many of them do different things. So how do you make a decision? I'm going to share now what I do. The top of the list is what is it that I want this piece of equipment to be able to do. The second is how will I be transporting this piece of equipment? Will it be on my back or will it be in my car? The third is what environmental issues am I likely to come up against? The weather is an issue, temperatures, altitude, all of those things can make quite a difference in what equipment you choose to take with you. The fourth thing, and it's a very important one for me, is what is my budget? We all have varying amounts of money or lack of money at various times in our life. Camping equipment runs the whole gamut of prices. And where is it important to try and spend a bit more money on, and what other things can you get away with spending less? One thing I think that we can all agree on is that one size does not fit all situations. So when thinking about what stove to take, I'll go back to the first guideline that I set for myself. What do I really want this piece of equipment to do, and what do I want in this piece of equipment? I want it to cook my food well, I want it to be really easy to use, and I want it to be reliable. And if I'm going to be carrying this piece of equipment, I need it to be as reasonably lightweight. As far as environmental factors, well, those vary, don't they? I've gone camping now in the winter, which has been really fun, but I've had a little hot tent and I've had a little wood stove in there. But I've also taken a supplementary way to cook. Sometimes if I'm going out for a little day hike and I know it's not wet, I might choose a different kind of stove to take. So I'm going to share with you the stoves that I have used over the years because I actually still have them. When I was first out backpacking, I just relied on building a fire. I was generally hiking along the ocean, and there's often plenty of driftwood to be found, but it's often wet, and sometimes the fire making wasn't terribly successful. The first stove that I purchased, I still have, and that was an MSR Whisper Light. It is still a very, very popular stove because this stove can work equally well in all temperatures. It's also multi-fuel. You can use unleaded gas, kerosene, diesel, white gas. So a lot of people choose this for traveling. It's quite reliable. It's a little bit finicky to get it to light sometimes, but it's still a very good stove. This little Solo light stove I've used in many of my videos, and I've been very happy with it. It can be used either as an alcohol stove or it can be used with twigs. I found using any wood in it much bigger than this is not very successful. In fact, I would start out my fire with a smaller wood. I also find using some kind of fire starter with the wood is very helpful, and it really needs to be dry. The alcohol stove works very, very well. The alcohol burner just pops inside. You turn this over and set your pot on top. It has great versatility, and when it has the alcohol burning, it is very, very quiet. It makes no sound. One of the advantages is when you put in the wood, you can have a little fire and you can warm your hands over it. It's a comfort. These come also in varying sizes. Mine is the Solo Light. It's the lightest and the smallest. I use methyl hydrate in this alcohol stove. I found that burns best, and it also burns cleanest. It's also very, very inexpensive and can be bought at your local hardware store. One of the cons I have with the alcohol stove is that it takes quite a while to boil your water. It takes longer. Again, the other downside is that because if you want to use it with wood, it really struggles if the wood is damp. I've given that a go, but dry firewood, it's no problem. Now I'll show you the cook system, the stove that I've been using the most recently. You've probably seen it in the videos. It's a very simple isobutane stove, and the burner, the stove itself, is actually an MSR PocketRocket 2, and it works really well. So I'll show that to you. This is the little stove. I don't think you're going to get anything much more compact than that. It's pretty tiny. So it's like my middle finger. And it folds out really easily. Do it in the right order, it helps. There we go. And you can put a good sized pot. I put the frying pan on here. And then you just screw this to the top of your isobutane. You turn on the fuel, light it, and you're ready to go. It can't be any easier than that. I've used it now quite a few times. Isobutane does not function as well when the canister is cold. So it's recommended that you try to keep it warm. Some people keep these inside their sleeping bag if they're out in cold weather. You can also warm it up by putting it inside your clothing. I have not had to do that because when I was in the winter, I was in my hot tent. This was actually stored in my car, and it was probably in a bag, and it worked fine. But they do have a limitation. All of these stoves work much better if they're out of the wind. So I've made a number of different kinds of windscreens. I've never bought a windscreen. Sometimes you just make it out of what's available in the environment, down behind a log, anything you can do. But I have made some different windscreens. This one, which I've made in the last year, is actually probably the best one. I purchased an aluminum cookie sheet from the grocery store and just folded it up. I flattened all the edges. What I like about it is that I can open this up. I've doubled the bottom, and so when I fold this up all the way, I can really make a good windscreen. I've been really happy. If I don't need that to be that high, I can just use it like this. It doesn't weigh very much. I also have used just plain old strong aluminum foil. And I've used whatever nature has provided around the campsite. It does fold right up, and it fits in my bag with my stove very easily. The second item that goes into my cook kit is a pot. I've used various pots, from pots that I bought at the local thrift store that could go right on the hot fire, and it didn't matter if they got warped or scorched or whatever, to a nice stainless steel pot. I've had a cook kit at one point, but right now what I like is this titanium totes 600 ml pot for what I'm doing. And I'm on my own most of the time. And so for one person, a pot of this size is totally adequate. At this point, I like my gear to be light, even if I'm not backpacking, and compact. So this pot seems to fill the bill for me. The only thing I don't like about it is that this lid does not fit really tightly. It tends to move around. But apart from that, it's fine. Another thing that if I was going to buy another one of these pots, I would get one that not only had the handle like this, but some of them will also have a handle like this so you can hang it over the fire. But this works really well. I try to keep everything minimal. So I'm going to put together my cook kit and I'll show you what I put in it and what it looks like when it's all packed up. So once I settled on my stove, and lately I've been using this one. I have my pot, I have a cup with a lid, a spork, a lighter. Optional items might be the frying pan and perhaps a turner, a spatula. If I'm going to be cooking a meal on here, not just rehydrating, I find a bowl is better than a plate. This is a dollar store bowl and it's very, very light. A collapsible bowl would also be something I would consider taking. If doing some cooking, using the frying pan, I pack in a little bit of olive oil and a tiny bit of seasoning, whatever it is you're going to want. These little containers, again, came from the dollar store. That saves you bringing anything very big. And perhaps a bit of camp soap. Regardless of the type of stove I choose to take, I often make my own dehydrated backpacking food. What I found works quite well is I put them in these little Ziploc bags. Last year, I made a little cozy for keeping the food warm while it's rehydrating. All this is insulation that is used for putting around hot water tanks. A little bit of the tape that you use for metal ducting, and some Velcro. I place the food inside, open the Ziploc, pour in the water, shut it up again, put this down, and leave it for however long it takes to rehydrate. This system really doesn't weigh anything. You do not require any dishes. And you can rinse out your bag after you've used it with some water and pack it away in with your garbage, or if you, like me, I very often recycle these bags. I use them over and over again, bring them home and wash them. As long as I've rinsed them out adequately, they can be reused. Then I'll show you how I pack this all away so it's in a compact all-together bag in my backpack, or when I take it in my canoe or just wherever. I've come to use the system quite a lot. This system weighs 1 pound, 13 ounces, including the fuel. Now, I could have a smaller container of isobutane. 1 8-ounce tin of isobutane burns on high heat for approximately 2 hours. So 2 hours of burning is more than I need for 2 or 3 days of just heating up water. So I could get away with a 4-ounce, and that would bring my weight down even more. I probably wouldn't take my bowl if I was backpacking, but when I'm going off in the canoe, it doesn't matter. I also take my frying pan because I like to cook outside. Also, I cook on the fire, just in foil or on the frying pan whenever I can. It's more campy, right? It's more fun. So that's really my cook kit of choice, generally speaking. but I do use the others, especially the Solo light. I go between using it just for twigs and using the alcohol. I very much like it. It's very, very quiet, and it's very, very portable. My first choice is to have a campfire. So thank you very much for watching, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and send some comments. I'd love to hear what your suggestions are. This is a place where people can share their experiences and what kind of equipment works for them. If you found this video to be useful and you like this video, please let me know, because I was thinking about doing 2 more sometime over the summer. One would be on shelter, how to choose an appropriate shelter, and the other one would be on a sleep system. I'll follow your lead, and if there's other things that you'd like me to share with you. I don't pretend to be an expert. I don't know what makes an expert on camping. I have made mistakes. I have made my share of mistakes. But I have found that really giving some thought to what is it you want this piece of equipment to do, how are you going to carry it, where are you going to take it, and then how much are you willing to pay. It kind of boils down to that for everything. So we can talk about other pieces of equipment if you would like to. So please let me know. Thanks a lot, and I look forward to seeing you on my next adventure. I've got a little one in the works. I'm always thinking of somewhere to go. So, stay well and live life fully.